My name is Roger Richards. My rank, or my rate, was Quartermaster Second Class, Submarine Qualified, U.S. Navy. Before I was in high school, much before that, my favorite uncle was a Navy pilot in World War II. And he inspired several of us, brothers and cousins, to go into the Navy. My brother, before me, 5 years older, went into the Navy, went to boot camp San Diego, and then went to submarine school in Groton, Connecticut. And then I followed him. When I was in high school, though, my brother was going to leave on a Westpac cruise from San Diego, and his wife was going to be left there, so he paid for me to fly out to San Diego to pick her up and bring her back to Texas, and so that she would be near her family while he was deployed. So I flew out there, and as fate would have it, while I was there, they had a dependence cruise. And so I was allowed to go out on the USS Spinax, which was his command at that time, and go for a day cruise. And we dived the boat several times, and got to sit at the helm, or stand at the helm, and just for the day. And then we came back, and I drove my sister-in-law back to Texas the next day. So that was my first real experience on a Navy ship, other than going on board the USS Texas, which is moored, and there's a battleship in Georgia that we went in, and I can't remember the name of that one. Yeah, that was my first moving at sea experience in the Navy. So I knew then that at some point I would be in the service, and didn't know exactly where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, but I had several friends that had been in the Navy. So in 1968, as things were getting out of hand in the Middle East, severely out of hand, I knew that I would be drafted pretty soon. So as soon as, in the summer of '68, as soon as my draft status turned from student deferment over to 1A, I started going downtown Dallas and familiarized myself with the Navy recruiter, and did all the paperwork, and was ready at any time, because I didn't want to go into the Army. I never had any desire to go into the Army. And so as soon as I got that letter, I called the recruiter, and he said, "Have you opened that letter yet?" And I said, "Well, no." He said, "Well, don't open it. I want you to come down here as soon as you can, bring the letter to me." So he took care of it, whatever they do to take care of those sort of things. And so got me signed up permanently. I signed all the papers, dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, and then was sworn in on a 60-day, I think it was, deferment, and then went active duty on October 14th, 1968. Was flown to San Diego, picked up at the airport there in San Diego on an old gray Navy bus, and taken to the barracks. We didn't get to the barracks till maybe midnight, and they literally threw us into a barracks there. We were all very tired, and believe it or not, some of the guys had been drinking a little bit, so we were just really ready for some sleep. And we'd been in bed approximately 30 minutes when they came in with a trash can, beating on the trash can, and made us get up and move barracks to another barracks. They did this several times that night. We'd have to stand at attention. I think they were just trying to get our attention, and they did. So by the time we really got up the next morning to go to chow, we hadn't slept but probably an hour, 2 hours maximum, and we were very dreary. We went through all the usual basic training there in the Navy, so there's several things I realized I didn't want to be in the Navy, and one was signalman, because our commander of my company in boot camp was a signalman, and he was the single meanest guy I've ever met in my life. And well, I won't tell you his name, but well, I will tell you his name, because it's such a coincidence that he was a signalman and his name was Beam. So I spent from October 14th until December the 12th, I think it was, not liking that man. And he spent that entire time hating me. So we got along fairly well because we had the same feelings about each other. I graduated boot camp and got what I wanted. I find in boot camp, as we went through all the training in boot camp, the one thing it did do for me was made me decide that I wanted to be in submarines, and which I had an idea I wanted to anyhow. So I got my orders to go to Groton, Connecticut, to submarine school. I still didn't know what job I wanted to do in the Navy. I came out of boot camp as a fireman. I had enough college hours that I was put on one pay scale higher, so I wasn't a fireman apprentice. I was a fireman, which I didn't want to be anyhow, because I knew I didn't want to go into any of the engineering rates. So I thought, they kept telling me, well, you can change that when you get to boot camp, or when you get to sub school. Well, I got to sub school, and they said, you can change that when you get to your command. Well, they sent me to Groton, Connecticut, and it was about January the 5th, as I recall, that I got to Groton, and it was white. That white was about a foot deep, and it didn't thaw out until the day I left. I saw the sun come out the day I left in April, toward the end of March. When I left Groton, Connecticut, I got on a bus, and the sun came out for the first time since I was there. But the snow was still there. I enjoyed my time. I found some good friends, met some very dear friends there in sub school, and met a few other guys I didn't like there either. But so anyhow, I got my first orders to go to the USS Spinax. Well, before that, we filled out our preference sheets, and I knew then that I wanted to go on a nuclear submarine in either Rota, Spain, or Holy Loch, Scotland. I wanted one of those fresh, new, beautiful nuclear jobs. Well, naturally, they sent me to San Diego on a pig boat. So I got on a plane, went to San Diego, and I got to San Diego, and there was no Spinax there.